Hi everyone, Pastor Adam here. Can't be with you tonight, but wanted to share with you just a couple thoughts as we continue in this series called Dressed for Success. Now last week we kicked this off and we are in the book of Colossians, specifically chapter 3. And what we're looking at is Paul's writing to the church in Colossae there, where he's telling them, he's encouraging them to clothe themselves with godly character. And so as we look at this, we'll see how as we develop godly character in our lives, it really does impact every aspect of our lives. So last week, we kicked off our series talking about how we can experience success at school when we develop those godly characteristics. And there was two main points, if you remember them. We talked about how we are in life, we are to act with responsibility. We need to do the things that we're supposed to do. And the second thing that we talked about is that we need to be a representative of Jesus. So we are responsible and we represent Jesus. So those are the two main things we talked about last week. This week, we're going to switch gears a little bit. You're in your pajamas maybe, so we're going to talk about something that all of us encounter, and we're going to talk about how we can have success at home. Before we jump into that, here's what I want you to do though. I want you to, you're going to hit pause right now, and I want you to share about a road trip that you have taken with your family. Share about some of the dynamics, some of the things that happen on your family road trips. It can be good things, it can be bad things, it can be like the most memorable thing, but talk about your family when you take road trips and what that is like. All right, if your family is anything like my family, road trips can oftentimes bring out the worst in us. Now, hopefully you have fun on road trips, and especially when you get to your end destinations, but I know that for me, sometimes the road trip, I have a short temper, and I can get aggravated easily, and I sometimes snap, I get frustrated, and just being real with you, and I love my family. But here's what I know about my family, and honestly what I know about your family too, is my family is not perfect, and your family isn't perfect. And the reality is none of us have perfect families, because, well, we're in them and we're not perfect people. So none of us have those perfect families, but God does have a plan for how we can succeed in our family life. In spite of our imperfections, God has a plan on how we can succeed in our family lives. And so we're going to take a look in Colossians chapter 3, beginning in verses 18 through 21. So Colossians 3, verses 18, 21, check this out, what it says. Wives, submit to your husbands, as is fitting for those who belong to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly. Children, always obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not aggravate your children, or they will become discouraged. All right, so in this passage, as we take a look at this, some of you right now are like, oh, I came to church and now they're going to tell me I have to obey my parents. There's a lot of things that happen in this passage. And so here they are, just very quickly again. In this passage, God gives us the instructions on how we are to interact as a family, as a household. And they are this. There's instructions for wives. There's instructions for husbands. There's instructions for children. There's instructions for fathers. And let's face it, no matter what your family looks like, no matter what's going on, none of us are perfect, and none of us get it perfect. We all mess up, and that's what makes this whole thing tough if we're going to experience success in our family life. And in order to succeed in our families and succeed at the family life, it takes everyone doing their part, every single one of us, every part of the family doing their part. Here's what I know. You cannot change how anyone else acts. All you can change is yourself. I'm going to say that again. You cannot change how anyone else acts. All you can change is yourself. And so really when it boils down to it, all of us can take something from this passage that we just read. I know for me, as a husband, I need to constantly have that reminder. I want to love my wife well. As a dad, I need the reminder to father my children well, to care for them, to not aggravate them. I want them to succeed. And there's certain things that I have, like hopes and dreams I have for my kids, but I also I need to encourage them and not really push them to the point of being discouraged. And so here's the thing. In the same way that I have things that I need to do, you need to focus on verse 20. Now see, all the leaders in this room, we all have things we can take from this passage. You as students, you can take things from this passage too. Specifically verse 20, simply put, obey your parents. Now, we're not sending this message to your parents if they happen to see it on YouTube. Your parents are maybe yelling amen right now, but the reality is you need to obey your parents. And so, and I know this is not always easy. I'm a grown person, and I know that obeying parents is not necessarily an easy thing to do. But what I want to challenge you to do is I want you to recognize a couple things that I believe to be true. Now, if these aren't true about your parents, I think they probably are. I'm not going to speak in absolutes here, but here's what I know to be true about most parents. Number one, they love you. I believe they really do love you. And number two, they really do want what's best for you. And this third thing, I definitely know is true about all of your parents. No matter how you view this, your parents, they're still human. Your parents are human, meaning they're going to mess up. They're going to mess up, and sometimes they're going to mess up a lot. And so none of them are going to always keep up their end of the bargain. They're going to mess up. Your dad is sometimes he's going to do something stupid to make your mom mad. Your mom, not that moms always do this, but your mom might, maybe, overreact and make you upset. That doesn't always happen, but sometimes it can happen. And here's one thing I also know to be true. You're going to make bad choices sometimes, and you're going to disobey them at some point. Now, I'm not saying that to give you permission to go and do that, but the likelihood is you're going to mess up and you're going to end up disobeying at some point. And so, but as we look back at verse 20, notice what it said at the very last part of it. It says, "Children, obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord." When we obey our parents, this pleases the Lord. And so you're going to talk some more about this in small groups and what that really looks like. But we really want to encourage you that as we take a look at this series called Dress for Success, and again, not success in the way that the world says, not fame and fortune and those things, but really having a life that has hope and has joy and has the peace that only God can offer. If we have that type of success in our family life, which one of us wouldn't want that, right? We all want peace in our homes. We want our families to be filled with love and joy. And so we have to play our part. And here's what I know to be true. When Jesus, and this is what it really boils down to, this whole passage, when Jesus is at the center of your life, you can do your part. When Jesus is at the center of your life, you can do your part. And that really is how we boil down the passage, kind of our main theme verse out of this whole passage, coming from Colossians chapter 3, verse 11. We've summarized it saying this way: in this new life, as a follower of Jesus, in this new life, it doesn't matter who you are. Christ is all that matters, and He lives in all of us. And that's really important for us to remember. And so when Jesus is at the center of your life, you can do your part. When Jesus is at the center of your life, that means you can do your part. You can succeed at living out verse 20 when Jesus is at the center of your life. And sometimes our attitude and our actions with our parents will go a long way in making that relationship great. How you interact will go a long way in that relationship. And so here's what I want to leave you with as you head off into your small groups. It's simply this thought: when we are right with our relationship with Christ, we will strive to be right with our family relationships. One last time, I'm going to tell you that. When we are right with our relationship with Christ, then we will strive to be right with our family relationships. And so as you go into your small groups, know that you are loved, that you are cared for, and we are cheering you on. We know that you can do an incredible thing, both in your family and in your school. We'll talk a little bit more about our spiritual life next week. We love you, and have an awesome time, and continue to press in to all that Jesus has for you this week.